Welcome to Treehouse of Horror 6, episode number 3F04, which originally aired on the 29th of October, 1995. I am executive producer and showrunner Bill Oakley.
I'm Josh Weinstein, the other executive producer and showrunner.
This is David S. Cohen. I wrote the third segment, Homer Cubed.
I'm Bob Anderson. I'm the director of this episode.
David Silverman, supervising director.
And this is spokesmodel Matt Groening.
So this was the first Halloween show of season 7 and 8, which Josh and I ran. And this is the first segment written by John Swartzwelder.
Who actually started out in advertising.
Yes, and the advertising company here, Van Brunton, whatever it was, is the name of the one he actually worked at.
And this donut place is based on that place down near the airport in Los Angeles, correct?
Randy's Donuts, but I think actually at the time it was the chain that put the fat in Fat Southern Sheriffs, he says. That was Krispy Kreme. But this was sort of a combination of those two.
But the actual physical giant donut is down near LAX. This is scientifically accurate, by the way. Never doubted it.
The Van Allen belt doesn't get enough play these days, so we thought it had to be.
Well, it caught on fire in one movie, but that's the last I heard of it. This is a really great designs throughout this entire show of the different
of all the
icons and
corporate icons are really well designed.
Yeah, and all the great shots here, Bob, that you did, all low angles and up shots.
Also, really good sound effects, too.
Great sound effects.
Gotta love Godzilla.
Now, how come you guys could use the Godzilla scream, but when we tried to use it in Monsters, Inc., they wouldn't let us? I don't understand that.
Because you asked.
That is exactly right.
Well, there you go.
See, this is actually one of the most... the names are so distracting in this episode. I think have the Halloween names, I think they were phased out a couple years ago, right? Or are they back now, Matt?
They're kind of back.
Because they got in the way.
Here's my rule on the Halloween names is that your Halloween name can be no longer than your real name.
That's good.
That's my specific
Because these
rule.
names, particularly with that crazy drippy green font and these enormous names with some of them which actually have like mathematical symbols.
Oh, I see. I'm getting the evil eye here.
They really clog up the screen. And also they go for the first several minutes of the show causing you to not be able to pay attention.
When I said my name was going to be the square root of David S. Cohen there, I didn't know it was also going to be in a drippy green font. The square root symbol doesn't normally exist in a drippy font. This is how precisely the fans watch these shows. I noticed on the internet that people had noticed that broadcast temporarily out thing, whatever that error message there was, that we had used different music than in previous episodes where TV broadcasts went out.
They're not so tough.
Chief, that wasn't a monster. That was the captain of the high school basketball team.
But he's pretty tall, too. Yeah.
Is this guy an inspiration for the later Simpsons character, Incredibly Tall Man?
No. We all know who that is.
This was before we thought of putting
I think
in
we
it.
should save that until we get... I think his first appearance was in
let's wait
22
for
short
that.
films.
Big surprise.
Well, for now, the answer of no, we'll have to say.
I like the hello, yes.
Has John Swartzwelder come in to do any commentaries yet, Matt?
No, he refuses.
Yes.
We asked him, even as a joke, to just say no. He won't do. He won't even say that into a microphone, which we bring to him. He won't do it.
I'd like to hear him on a commentary someday. He's a funny guy. Oh, can I credit something to John Swartzwelder, who wrote this segment, that I actually stole something that he said to go in Lisa the Vegetarian, but I forgot to credit him. Can I credit him now?
Yeah,
Sure.
Is that all right? There's this run in Lisa the Vegetarian, where Homer talks about how bacon, ham, sausage all come from the pig, this wondrous, magical creature. He can't believe they all come from one animal. That was based on a real statement by John Swartzwelder going on and about how amazing the pig is that provides all these so, there you go. The genius of John Swartzwelder, if you didn't get enough of it in this episode.
Just how his mind works. I like the Exterminator
Western
Man.
Exterminator, yes. It was a slightly legally approved spin-off.
Right, all of them must be like the Peanut guy as well.
Right. He's Professor Peanut rather than
and he
Mr.
doesn't have
Peanut.
the monocle, I think.
That's right. He has glasses.
Yes. Of course,
And,
we have the Zip boys.
This is
The
the
Zip
advertising agency that Swartzwelder actually worked at, or named after the people.
Now,
he
apparently, we
worked
could use their real name because I guess they were defunct or
for. Or dead.
Yeah, probably.
And Swartzwelder was writing for this advertising company when he was discovered by George Meyer, correct, to write for Saturday Night Live? That's a story I've heard.
Yeah. He was working for that magazine Army Man.
Underground magazine?
Yeah.
And now
Edited
John
by George
Swartzwelder is a novelist.
That's right.
In fact, David Cohen, you wrote me an email saying that you were laughing till you were crying.
It's
Yeah.
so super Swartzweldery. I recommend you have to buy it on Amazon. You can find it. It's every single line is a Swartzwelder joke. So there's about 10,000 of them, and your head will
It
fly
really
off.
does. It takes you to a new dimension.
I have read both of his novels now. He has 2 available on
The
there.
Time Machine Did It is the first one,
The Time Machine
That's the
did
one
it,
I read,
and the
yeah.
second one is called Double Wonderful,
a Western.
a Western. They're both comedies. The first one is a sci-fi criminal, what do you call it? Mystery? What do you call that kind of a show? Crime drama. Comedy crime drama. The second one is a comedy Western. But I personally vote for The Time Machine Did It, if you have to read one or the other.
I say this Just Don't Look is a very catchy tune.
Yeah,
That's
and
Paul
that really
Anka.
was Paul Anka, and the reason that we got Paul Anka was because he wrote us a letter. There had been an episode that I think is in the previous season where Marge says that Homer is her wonderful Paul. Marge has a lot of really dated references. It was like she's like our parents with her references from the late 50s, early 60s.
And now we're like our parents.
I know. And so she compared Homer to Paul Anka, and that was kind of like a sly dig at how dated she was. But then we got a really nice letter from Paul Anka
He was a real gentleman.
thanking us for mentioning him. And so as soon as we wrote the song, we said, let's get Paul Anka to come in, and he was really good.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows.
Now, this is supposed to be from Plan 9, right? And I never quite got the fact that the fact the guy's looking in the camera is not really from Plan 9. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Never mind.
But
All right,
keep
that
going.
shot is supposed to be like Criswell at the end of Plan 9, but I don't know why or
the
how.
dire warning to Earth, yeah.
They look really weird with painted backgrounds, don't they?
Oh, is that Van Allen belt stuff also from Plan 9? Is that
That was
why?
from
Is it?
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind. This is where Matt Groening decided to go a whole different way with the style of animation.
Now, this is really well animated, and one thing about this episode is I think all the segments are really well written, and the animation really is a step beyond in terms of how good it is, and particularly with our 3D thing, we all were just like, frankly, we were all very impressed by our own work. And so this was the episode that we nominated for the Emmys. We put up for the Emmys this year. And very surprisingly to us, we got beaten by Pinky and the Brain. Now, I never saw the episode of Pinky and the Brain that won. It could have been great. But in the future years, we learned, I think, that the Emmy voters like something with a little bit more emotion in it. And this does not have
as much killing.
the emotion.
I think.
Yes.
Too much killing and violence.
I also don't think the Emmy voters were familiar with any of the things we were parodying. And, it's like... It was a gross miscalculation, particularly considering how many emotional episodes we did have this season, like Mother Simpson or something like that.
I can't wait till I become an old Emmy voter and can get all those young, uppity writers by voting for old, boring
I've
stuff.
already started becoming an Emmy voter, and let me tell you, I'm only voting for the crustiest, fustiest thing.
One thing I'll say about this particular segment is it's really scary. I think
It
this
is.
is one of the
Yes,
scariest
this is
ones.
one that I don't want my kids to see quite yet.
I let my daughter watch this last night in preparation for this, and I forgot how scary this was, and then she was really upset and kept talking about and then she had a nightmare about Groundskeeper Willie and mummies chasing her as well. So, yeah. This is obviously a parody of Nightmare on Elm Street. For those of you who aren't familiar with that series, it's very similar to this, about the janitor who's murdered by the parents, and then he comes back to life and tortures their kids in the dreams. So, like, today's kids aren't familiar with Nightmare on Elm Street, so when Mary saw this, my daughter, she was terrified by the whole concept of someone killing you in your dreams. Anyway, we didn't make it up.
This is one of my favorite gags.
Good job.
And he also
Great
calls
drawing.
it...
Nice shadows in that scene.
Yeah.
I don't see what that has to do.
Now, this, by the way, coming up, something that always cracked me up is the first time we hear
Lousy Smarch Weather.
well that lousy Smarch Weather, and also that we hear Mr. Van Houten's first name is Kirk.
Was this the first time we said his name out loud?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, man. That fits him so well, that name.
From beyond the grave. It all started on the 13th hour of the 13th.
And this is also based on Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's the parents, right? They
I
killed
think they
the
killed
janitor
him,
or
yes. A
something.
group of parents, and that's the people that he's haunting are the kids of those.
Do not touch Willie. Good advice.
Trivia fact there, Smarch has 28 days.
Well,
in case you were wondering.
naturally.
Yeah. By the way, if you're watching this with your kids right now, be forewarned. It's only going to get scarier.
It's too late.
And we're going to start talking in scarier voices.
I find that kids love to hear the commentaries. In fact, they don't really care what's happening in the episode. They just want to hear the behind-the-scenes anecdotes.
Willie, please. Mr. Van Houten has the floor.
I, for one, would like to see the cafeteria menus in advance.
He sits down.
Accordingly. I don't like the idea of Millhouse having 2 spaghetti meals in one day.
That happened off screen, thank God.
As if it weren't horrifying enough. Now, Steve Tompkins, who wrote this, could not be here today, but Steve did a terrific job.
You've been scared ever since.
Yes.
He couldn't get out of a hospital.
Now, I noticed that when he mentions Kirk Van Houten's first name, that was cut out, but that was in the original animation. I believe the line was that after he says it about, I don't want Millhouse having 2 spaghetti meals in one day. Nobody wants that, Kirk.
You're right. Well, this is...
That was a cutout line.
You're right. But this was another episode that was so long that...
Halloween episodes were always incredibly hard to cut down.
Well, these are all three of these segments are really complex stories with beginning, middle, and ends. They're not just like, here's a pastiche of a parody of something. And it's hard to fit 3 complete stories into 21 minutes. So anyway, that's why actually I think this is the first time we didn't have the warning, or we didn't even make an attempt at a warning in the front, which probably
That's
didn't.
what caused all those kids to have heart attacks.
Because we had a really long, complicated beginning, I recall, and then we cut it out, and I think it was Jacqueline or someone suggested that thing
With the Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
It was
might
a
have been
very
Jacqueline
long
Atkins,
opening.
our writer's assistant.
We were just looking at an old draft of the script. Originally, at the opening of the show, there was a long pastiche of horror scenes with, for example, Ned Flanders as Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then a bunch of other,
Like
about
Dr.
7 in
Hibbert
a row.
reanimating Richard Nixon's head, and a lot of complicated things that then we cut out.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah. I think we went all the way to animatic. I don't know if we animated it. I can't remember.
Well, in the seasons 7 and 8, there was never an episode that came in short. They were always long. They were always long as could be, and so there's lots of stuff had to get cut out at every stage.
This is great, man. I love the way you've timed this and directed
In the
shots
background,
here.
colors, the whole palette is terrific too.
Yeah. So the course is like T2.
That's amazing, too.
So,
Yeah.
Sinky Sand, my kids thought that that's what the term was
Sinky
because of
sand.
this show.
Wow.
Dad, help, I'm stuck in sinky sand. It's quicksand. Say it right.
Now listen up. It's your basic Statue of Liberty plan. With one
The
click,
design,
you
the background
drop the
designs.
bait.
Oh, this was really
is
scary.
terrifying.
This is horrifying.
really terrifying to me.
So it's important we start this.
But I've always,
terrifying.
I've always been scared of bagpipes, though. That's
So, kids, I guess we should
Yeah,
have warned
I
you
think
about that. too.
bagpipes are going to suffer a significant decline in popularity.
Wake up! Wait a minute. If you're
This
here,
turned a lot of kids
you've
off.
fallen asleep too.
to turn a harmless spider into a terrifying bagpipe like that shocks me.
By the way, bagpipes are because he's Scottish. Is that clear?
Yeah.
You Scottish, really? Oh, I didn't know
Bagpipes are
that.
Scottish.
Right,
Willie
they're
is Scottish.
Scottish,
I thought he was
Yes,
French.
it works.
Okay, just want to check and make sure that we didn't need to rewrite on this.
And we got real bagpipe, right? Alf had a bagpipe
Yeah.
player guy. And then
There's
he
great
blew up
music,
his
by the way,
bagpipe.
in this whole thing, and including that music, which is very similar to the Nightmare on Elm Street music.
Yeah, very, very good all the way through. And of course, everything is fine except for
That's the nature of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
yes.
They wait till the very last 10 seconds, and then
I have
It's
a
not
friend
over
who
yet.
I have a good friend who's really obsessed with this show. In fact, he's very angry that it's not on Saturdays. But one thing that really irritates him is Maggie falling down. He
Really,
just-
because some of the fans
the
fans look out for that. Some of them, it's like a running thing. Which episodes does she fall down in? And there's a drinking game where you drink when Maggie falls.
Yeah, you
down.
should go to MaggieFalls.com. Talk about it.
the shoe fell off. That's sad and pathetic.
That's great.
I think we wanted to add silly
Great
music at
faces.
the end just to make sure people aren't so.
Yeah, Benny Hill, he runs off in a snaky fashion.
Here we
All right.
go.
All right,
Here it
here's the
goes.
big
Now, I gotta
one.
say,
Homer Cubed, obviously a parody of the title of Alien Cubed, the third Alien movie.
Was that really what I never got that until I read the notes for this thing. That was supposed to be like, I think this movie came out before Alien 3. I mean, our show.
No, that's what the logo was based on. Maybe the poster was out or something, but that's
the movie came out first.
Maybe I had a vision of the distant future.
But we did come out before Toy Story, where it came out a month before Toy Story.
That's right. This was the first. It's hard to tell now, but it was the computer animation. There hadn't been any computer animation like this. In the public.
In fact, we were just talking about.
That. I came to. You were pitching out ideas, and I came over, and you looked at me and said, "David, can we do computer animation?" And I didn't know, and I was sort of hesitated, and I think you said to me like, "Well, you got to tell us now because if we can't, we won't do this episode." And I said, "Yes, we can." Thinking that in the back of my mind, thinking we can at least do something better than the Money for Nothing video, the Dire Straits.
That was what we were actually expecting. I think at a point was something extremely primitive. And actually, I remember it might have been Scott Alberts who was talking about doing it on his home computer.
Right.
People were talking about doing it on their home computer, but then there'll be an additional thing on the DVD that describes the making of the computer animation portion, but this is the general description of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Richard Moranis got PDI to do it for basically, I guess they did it as a test.
Right, they're some of the pioneers.
But now they're DreamWorks animation, right?
And they told me later that this piece of animation helped them get the gig with DreamWorks because it was their only really fun character animation they had done up to that point.
Did you just say this? Tim Johnson, who worked on this, he went on to direct the movie Ants, computer animation. Did you say that?
No, but you're right. Yes.
Well, then I said it.
You said it.
Now, there's all this science.
Oh, I'm going to talk a lot of math here if everyone wants to. So if you want to really lean forward and with excited, drooling expectation, get ready. I'm going to explain
David
what all
Cohen
this
comes
math
alive.
There's a lot.
All right.
Go ahead.
So
quick, what's all that stuff?
You'll see P equals NP. That's the most famous unsolved problem in computer science, but we've solved it by just saying equals. It's actually not known whether they're equal. There's also a long string of numbers and letters there, which is the computer ASCII code, it's called, hexadecimal ASCII code, which is the numbers the computer uses to represent letters and numbers, and that says Frink rules, ! If you decode it.
Did anyone figure that out?
And the most famous thing back there is, there's Frink rules, that thing in the background. The thing which has become most well-known to the math people in the Simpsons audience.
That was
I
from a
don't
game
see
called
it yet,
Myst.
but it's a parody of Fermat's last theorem, and it says 1782 to the 12th plus 1841 to the 12th equals 1922 to the 12th. That would seemingly disprove one of the most famous math equations of all time, Fermat's last theorem. I used a computer program to find this example, which it appears to be true on a normal calculator because it's right to 8 digits. And if that was true, it would disprove something which has been which has not been known for hundreds and hundreds of years, whether it's true or not. But actually, in the 9th place, just beyond where people's calculator could compute, it is incorrect. So anyway, a lot of people got very excited thinking the Simpsons had solved this centuries-old math problem, but really it's wrong one place past your calculator.
The animation looks good, too.
And if anyone has any further interest in the math equations, you should go to this website called simpsonsmath.com, which discusses all this stuff, run by two mathematicians, Professor Sarah Greenwald and Professor Andrew Nestler. So check that out.
This whole segment is...
By the way, and what David just said is a truncated version of what you'll get on that website. In fact, at your house, you had those professors do a whole lecture.
Yes, they lectured
and
about this
I was lost within a minute.
I want to point out, this is obviously a parody of famous Twilight Zone episode Little Girl Lost, where the little girl falls into the 4th dimension. That's pretty much this whole episode is basically a parody, story-wise, of that Twilight Zone episode.
Square. Whoa, slow down.
That's one of my favorite lines.
Me too.
ever.
And you know what? It's cut out in the syndicated version. And I was watching this in syndicated version. I was very upset because an ordinary square, slow down, Egghead is... I've been saying that to you as much as I've been saying I've been wallowing in my own crapulence.
That's correct.
Stop saying those things to us.
I got to get some new things. These are 10 years old.
I guess one problem with the Halloween episodes being so fast and so compacted is when they're cut for syndication, they really lose a lot of good stuff.
Enough of your borax, Poindexter. Man's
what we had done is we had done storyboards for people at PDI, and I love the blowing of the hair, by the way. And they took the boards and they were doing layouts, and they were sending us layouts to check, and we had notes back and forth the whole time on this.
That equation in the background was an equation saying that the universe would collapse, even though that, again, is not known whether it will or not. So we just made our calls on all these unknown questions of science. Oh, there used to be another math joke here where a Mobius strip floated by, which is a one-sided figure that looks kind of like a donut, and Homer ate it like a donut, and he said, "Ooh, chocolate on one side, vanilla on the other," which was a great math joke because it only has one side.
There could be cubes in there the size of gorillas and other large.
And originally, when you came up with the idea, you were going to have Homer go through a bunch of different dimensions, or
There was, I remember, I think, I'm not to take too much credit, but I believe it was my notion.
It was your
originally.
idea originally.
I
Yes,
remember
Bill
where I
thought
was
of
when I
this
came
idea
up with it. And it was basically just that Twilight Zone thing just sort of wrote itself because we parodied it so directly. But the idea of making Homer in 3D it was unbelievably complicated in advance.
Right,
in
and there were going to be
1995.
references to many. There are only a few computer animated
Right.
things, including like the Dire Straits
Yeah.
video, which
And
there was
Mist,
a joke.
and that
about-
temple for Mist, which who cares about Mist these days? But back then it was the biggest thing ever.
Oh, and the joke where Homer says, this place looks expensive, that obviously is kind of lost on a lot of people now because now this animation might look a little cheap, but at the time it was incredible that this could be done for a TV show.
And the whole reason we did that thing with the water and the fish was just to
That
show
was amazing at
state
the
of the
time.
art computer animation.
yeah,
So a lot
which
of these
is now
things
available in my Mac.
The point is now lost. It's just because it was never seen on TV before, so we were showing up.
I do remember what was going to happen now. He was going to go into other dimension. We were going to animate. He was going to progress through other dimensions, including one where he was done in paper cutouts. And then we said that's just too complicated. Let's just do this one.
We'll just go to Ventura.
We'll just go
Boulevard.
to live action here.
This is all directed by David Merkin.
This is Ventura Boulevard in Studio City.
We dress it up, and all these extras were following a ball on a fishing line, basically, to keep their eye lines following this. And of course, we physically moved. We had people inside the trash dumpster throwing up garbage. You know.
It was the only time we ever got to go outside when we worked at The Simpsons. Also, the late Bill Oakley and State of Josh Weinstein. I'm not actually dead as of this recording.
Our school
people
called.
thought that we
Bill
were
and I went to
actually
school
dead.
together, and someone from the alumni office called, and they were very concerned because they thought that we had actually died.
I got a concern call from the math department at Berkeley because they were afraid I had become the square root of David Cohen. This cake store, erotic cake store, is not really there. That's the one fake store.
No, it was a photography studio, and we painted that thing to say erotic cakes. I recall that this ending was very controversial, too, because people didn't quite understand. The idea was Homer's going to be comfortable in this dimension. They have crud like erotic cakes that he would like, and it's a happy ending, even though this music doesn't really indicate that. And on that note, we'll end this commentary.
Bye.
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 Aloha.